we should be paid. You see, the public should be concerned with that those who will not come don't get paid, because you don't get paid for no work done. And we need to behave as responsible citizens, so that a responsibility bestowed on you calls for equitable remuneration. You don't take the remuneration without expending the responsibility. So I think that there must be, in fact, if we are reviewing the Constitution, some of these sanctions ought to be presented into the Constitution, so that we will be limited by our performance in Parliament and also our behaviors in Parliament.
But Honourable, if we're not paying them for work not being done because they're not, coming to Parliament, is that punitive enough? Is that something that would change their behavior as parliamentarians?
You see, there must be, and indeed we must test the law, because the Constitution gives a time frame of which sanctions apply. Maybe the constitutional moratorium is too long. They say 14 days absence from Parliament. And again, it says it is conservative. 14 days consecutive absence. I believe that we should even take away the word consecutive, and then also limit the time, so that we'll be conscious of sanctions if we don't come to Parliament as expected. These are some of the areas that we need to improve in our constitution.
Now, one other thought that I have, and I want to put it out in the form of a question, has to do with the fact that if you listen to General Mosquito, that is Aseidu Nketiah, he says that the members of Parliament on the NDC side should not hit a recall to Parliament because there's nothing emergency to be attended to.
Is he suggesting that the work of Parliament is only to address emergency situations? Is that what he's suggesting? And that in the absence of emergency situations, Parliament should not sit? Is that what he's suggesting? I don't think he's suggesting that. So when he puts in a prayer like that, he should be mindful of the consequences thereof. And indeed, all of us should take a cue from what has happened in Parliament in recent times. When you bend the rules to your favor on one occasion, always believe that the world and the law of karma is also there, so that there will be a time that you'll be confronted by the same circumstances, and that which you thought that you enjoyed would come back to haunt you, and therefore you will also be the target of such a situation and such misapplication of law. So it is not funny when people want to misapply or frustrate or undermine the law or operate the law in such manner that will prohibit the enjoyment of somebody's right, as you also maximize the enjoyment of a perceived right that doesn't exist. Because when the tables turn, you will also be at the receiving end of the same situation and the same misapplication of law. So let us be lawful and move on, so that there will be justification for any actions and inactions. And therefore, citizens would have expectations in the application of law, and the expectation will be in sync with the Constitution. So for me, Mr. Aseidu Nketiah is saying this today. What would he say in future if the tables turn and he is also? So let us not be too selfish, too partisan, too partisan in our outlook and in our performance and even in our thinking. We have a country, Ghana, that is for all of us, and it is most precious commodity that we need to protect. So if Ghana is to benefit from anything, and you are trying to prove to prevent Ghanaians from enjoying something, what would you have done for yourself and for the country?
If you look at some of the things that are tabled for work in Parliament, if Parliament should be sitting, there's a budget approval for the 2025 budget. That is, of course, is key among the pending government businesses. There's a revoking of LI on mining in forest reserves, which, of course, was one of the conditions given by organized labor as part of the conditions to rescind its planned strike action. There's also the approval of a $250 million Ghana Financial Stability Fund, approval of $250 million Ghana Energy Sector loan, approval of $350 million worth of tax waivers, approval of 2 Supreme Court nominees and all that. And there are people who are of the view that even with that of the budget, if it's not approved or worked on in Parliament, it could affect workers and their salary.
Yes, and workers must also be alive and also respond to such unfortunate call. And indeed, the budget. If we don't pass a budget for the government, and government is not able to pay salaries and even infrastructure commitments, how will it adhere to the benefit of one party or the other? Again, let us also not forget that in the event of the Parliament not passing any budget, the state may have to create a contingency fund, and use that to manage the country. There must be funding from somewhere to manage the country. In that case, are we not just subjecting the coffers of the nation to the executive without control? How will we come back to complain of misappropriation or misapplication? It is more dangerous to leave this backing for the executive to enjoy freedom of expenditure than creating a budget that controls expenditure. So, Mr. Aseidu Nketiah's call, probably he did not appreciate the consequences thereof. We are going to receive some funds to support our budget and support, and he's saying that we should not approve of that. Is that what he's saying? We are going to work on the LI that we have all complained about. Forget about even the organized labor's request. But you see, that LI was enacted in error or without appreciating the consequences thereof. And if we have had opportunity to remove it, and you are saying it should continue so that our forests will suffer the degradation that we are seeing, is that the case? Is that what he's suggesting? Supreme Court judges, some of them are retiring, and I'm told that quite one or two of them have already retired. Are we not replacing them? Is it in his interest not to replace Supreme Court judges? You see, and this thing that is happening, is he expecting also the majority side to support any initiative from the minority side? Is that the case? And don't forget that there is always a pre-meeting conferencing between majority and minority leaders. And when they agree on something, we must follow that as an institution, not listening to submissions from outside the institution. I think that the time has come for us to act as Ghanaians rather than us acting as partisan politicians. So the interest of the country is paramount, and let us all need to uphold it.